Picture this. It's the 27th of the month. You check your bank account and there's exactly 4,000 naira left, or maybe it's $40 if you're watching from elsewhere. Your rent is due in 3 days. You've got a wedding to attend on Saturday, and somehow you have absolutely no idea where the rest of your salary went. You made decent money this month. You're not extravagant, you didn't buy a yacht, but the money just evaporated like it never existed. Sound familiar? Yeah, you're not alone. In fact, a 2023 survey found that over 60% of adults in developing economies live paycheck to paycheck, and a shocking number of people in wealthy countries do too. The problem isn't always how much you earn. Often, it's what nobody ever taught you about how money actually works. And that's the thing, isn't it? We spend 12 to 16 years in school learning algebra, the water cycle, and the causes of World War I, all valuable stuff, but not a single class on what a budget is, how interest compounds, why your credit score matters, or what an emergency fund actually does for you. We're handed a salary one day and expected to just figure it out. Well, today we figure it out together. This is Money 101, the class you should have had years ago. No jargon, no judgment, just the essential financial concepts that will genuinely change how you think about and handle your money. Grab something to drink, get comfortable, let's get into it. Section 1, Income versus Wealth. They are not the same thing. The first concept might seem obvious, but I promise you, most people are living as if they don't understand it. And that concept is this: income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what flows in. It's your salary, your freelance payments, your side hustle proceeds. It's the water coming out of the tap. Wealth, on the other hand, is what stays in the bucket. It's what you accumulate, own, and can access even when the tap is turned off. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. A person earning 500,000 naira a month, roughly $300 to $350 at current rates, but spending every last kobo of it, has zero wealth. Zero. Meanwhile, someone earning 150,000 naira a month who consistently saves and invests a portion of it is actively building wealth. Income impresses people at dinner parties. Wealth is what actually keeps you fed. There's a famous example economists love to cite: lottery winners. Studies have repeatedly shown that a significant number of people who win large lottery jackpots, we're talking millions, end up broke within 5 years. Why? Because they had a sudden surge in income with absolutely no framework for managing wealth. They scaled their lifestyle up to match the money, bought things that depreciated, gave generously without a plan, and when the money ran out, they had nothing left to show for it. Now contrast that with someone like Warren Buffett, who, as a teenager, bought a pinball machine, placed it in a barber shop, collected the coins, bought another machine with the profits, and kept going. His income from each machine was modest, but he was building a wealth-generating system from day one. The lesson? Stop asking, how much do I earn? And start asking, how much do I keep? Because keeping is building, and building is how wealth happens. Section 2. Budgeting your money needs a job description. Here's a way to think about money that changed everything for me. Every naira, every dollar, every shilling you earn needs a job description. If your money doesn't have somewhere specific to be, it will wander off. And money that wanders off is basically unemployed money, and unemployed money has a terrible habit of ending up at fast food restaurants and online shopping carts at 1 a.m. This is what a budget is. It's not a punishment. It's not a restriction. It's a job description for your money. The simplest and most widely recommended budgeting framework is the 50-30-20 rule, popularized by Senator Elizabeth Warren back when she was a Harvard bankruptcy law professor. The idea is elegantly simple. You take your take-home income that's after tax and you split it 3 ways. 50% goes to needs: rent, food, transportation, utilities, the things you literally cannot function without. 30% goes to wants: dining out, entertainment, clothes beyond the basics, your streaming subscriptions, weekend plans, and 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. 20%? I can barely cover my needs with what I make. And that's a fair and valid concern, especially in high-cost cities or volatile economies. The 503020 is a framework, not a law. The point isn't the exact percentages, the point is intentionality. Even if your version looks like 702010 right now, that's fine. The act of deciding where your money goes before it decides for itself is the whole game. Practical hack. Try a zero-based budget for just 1 month. Sit down at the start of the month and assign every single unit of currency you expect to earn to a category until you reach zero. Not zero in your bank account, zero unassigned money. Every naira has a name. It's a little tedious at first, but people who do this consistently report feeling dramatically more in control of their finances within 60 to 90 days. Section 3. The magic and menace of compound interest. Now we get to the concept that Albert Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world, though historians debate whether he actually said it. Regardless of who gets the credit, compound interest is genuinely one of the most powerful forces in personal finance. It is also, depending on which side of it you're on, either your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. Let's start with the friendly version. Compound interest is interest earned on interest. Simple interest is when you put 100,000 naira in a savings vehicle at 10% annually, and every year you earn 10,000 naira in interest. After 10 years, you've earned 100,000 inches interest. Simple enough. Compound interest says, no, in year 2, you don't just earn 10% of your original 100,000. You earn 10% of 110,000, because the 10,000 you earned in year 1 is now also working for you. In year 3, you earn 10% of 121,000, and so on. The numbers start slowly, but then they snowball in a way that feels almost surreal. Here's a concrete example. If a 25-year-old invests 50,000 naira per month, that's roughly $30 at an average annual return of 12%, achievable with certain indexed funds over long periods, and never increases that contribution. By the time they're 55, they'd have accumulated over 170 million naira from contributions that totaled about 18 million naira. The difference over 150 million naira is entirely compound growth. It's money making money making money. Now here's the villain in this story. Compound interest works exactly the same way on debt. When you carry a credit card balance at 24% annual interest, which is common in many countries that interest compounds monthly, it accrues on the balance, which includes previous interest. If you owe $1,000 and make only minimum payments, it can take over 5 years and cost you nearly double the original debt to pay off. The credit card company is not your friend in that scenario. They are literally using the eighth wonder of the world against you. The takeaway: get compound interest working for you as early as possible, and avoid situations where it's working against you. Section 4. Emergency funds your financial immune system. Let's talk about the most boring, unsexy, completely essential financial tool in existence: the emergency fund. Think of your financial life as a human body. Income is your food, it's what fuels you. Investments are your muscles, they grow with consistent exercise. But an emergency fund? That's your immune system. You don't notice it when it's working. You only discover it exists when something goes wrong, and when it goes wrong without it, the damage is catastrophic. An emergency fund is simply money set aside in a liquid, accessible account, meaning you can get to it quickly, not locked up in a fixed deposit or tied to stocks specifically for unexpected expenses. Job loss, medical bills, your car breaking down, your landlord suddenly doubling the rent. Life loves to be unpredictable. The standard recommendation is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So if your monthly expenses, rent, food, transportation, utilities come to 150,000 naira, your target Emergency fund is between 450,000 and 900,000 naira. That sounds like a lot, and it is. But you build it gradually. Even starting with 1 month's expenses is infinitely better than zero. Here's what happens without an emergency fund. Something unexpected occurs. Your phone gets stolen, your child falls ill, you lose a contract, and you have two options. You borrow from someone, creating social and financial stress, or you go into consumer debt, probably high interest debt, to cover the gap. And now you're not just dealing with the original crisis, you're dealing with the crisis plus debt plus interest. One bad event creates a financial chain reaction that can take years to recover from. The emergency fund breaks that chain. It absorbs the shock. It lets you handle the crisis calmly, without panic, selling your investments, or spiraling into debt. 3 to 6 months. Keep it somewhere accessible, build it slowly. Guard it fiercely, and only use it for actual emergencies, not for sales, not for impulse buys. Actual emergencies. Section 5. Good debt versus bad debt. Yes, the distinction is real. At some point in your financial education, someone told you that debt is bad. Avoid it at all costs. Pay cash for everything. And while the spirit of that advice is well-meaning, the reality is a bit more nuanced, and understanding the nuance might be one of the most practically useful things you learn today. Not all debt is created equal. There is good debt and bad debt, and the difference comes down to one simple question. Does this debt help me create more value than it costs? Good debt is debt that, over time, increases your net worth or income potential. A student loan that funds a degree leading to a significantly higher paying career. A mortgage on a property in a growing area that appreciates in value. A business loan to purchase equipment that generates income exceeding the repayment cost. These are cases where borrowing money is a tool for building something larger. Bad debt is debt that funds consumption, things that depreciate or disappear after you buy them. Credit card debt for clothes you wore once. A personal loan to fund a vacation. Borrowing to buy a car that costs more than you can comfortably afford and loses value the moment you drive it. These are situations where the debt makes you poorer over time, not richer. Of course, the line isn't always clean. A car loan can be good debt if you need the car to operate a business. A mortgage can be bad debt if the property is overpriced in a declining market. The principle to apply is always, what is the return on this borrowing, and does it exceed the cost? The practical advice here is simple. Before taking on any debt, ask yourself 3 questions. What will this money produce? What is the true cost of borrowing it, including interest? And what is my clear, specific plan to repay it? If you can't answer all 3 confidently, don't borrow. Section 6. Investing, making your money work night shifts. We've covered keeping money, budgeting money, and protecting money. Now, let's talk about growing money. Specifically, let's talk about why keeping all your savings in a bank account is, in many economic environments, quietly costing you money. Inflation is the general rise in the price of goods and services over time. If your country has an inflation rate of 15% and your savings account is paying you 4% interest, you are effectively losing 11% of your purchasing power every year. The number in your account might be growing, but what it can actually buy is shrinking. Your money is running on a treadmill and losing ground. Investing is how you get your money off the treadmill and into the race. When you invest, you're putting your money into assets, stocks, real estate, bonds, index funds, businesses that have the potential to grow at a rate that outpaces inflation over time. Now, I know the word investing makes some people immediately think of stockbrokers on Wall Street screaming into phones or cryptocurrency charts turning red. It doesn't have to be that complicated. In fact, the evidence strongly suggests that simple, boring, long-term investing consistently outperforms complicated, exciting, short-term trading. Index funds, for example, are investment vehicles that simply track a broad market index like the S&P 500, which represents the 500 largest companies in the United States. Instead of trying to pick winning stocks, which even professional fund managers fail to do consistently, you're essentially betting that the overall economy will be larger in 20 years than it is today. Historically, that bet has paid off very well. The S&P 500 has returned an average of roughly 10% annually over the last century. You don't need a large sum to start. Many investment platforms now allow you to begin with the equivalent of just a few thousand naira. The most important variable isn't how much you invest at first, it's how long you invest. Remember our friend compound interest? Time is its fuel. The earlier you start, the more dramatically it works in your favor. A simple, actionable framework. Once you have your emergency fund in place, start directing a portion of your income, even 10%, toward investments. Keep it simple. Stay consistent. Don't panic when markets dip, because they always do and they always recover. And resist the temptation to check your portfolio every day. Investing is a slow cooker, not a microwave. Section 7. Financial goals, giving your money a destination. Here's a question that sounds philosophical but is actually deeply practical. What is your money for? Not in a vague financial security way. Specifically, what are you trying to do with your money in the next 1 year, 5 years, 20 years? Because money without a destination is just a number on a screen. And numbers on screens don't keep you motivated when there's a sale on things you don't need and the weekend is here and all your friends are going somewhere expensive. Financial goals give your money meaning. They transform the abstract concept of saving into a concrete mission. Instead of "I should probably save more," it becomes "I need 2.4 million naira for a down payment on an apartment in 3 years, which means I need to put aside 67,000 naira every month." That's actionable, that's trackable, that's motivating. A useful framework is to categorize your goals by time horizon. Short-term goals are things you want to achieve in the next 1 to 2 years: building your emergency fund, paying off a credit card, saving for a trip. Medium-term goals are 3 to 10 years out: a home purchase, starting a business, funding a child's education. Long-term goals are a decade or more away: retirement, legacy wealth, financial independence. Each category requires a different approach. Short-term goal: money should be in safe, liquid places, high-yield savings accounts, money market funds. Medium-term money can tolerate a bit more risk, perhaps a mix of lower-risk bonds and some equities. Long-term money can be in higher growth assets like stock index funds, because you have time to ride out market volatility. Write your goals down. Assign naira amounts to them. Calculate what you need to save monthly. Review them twice a year. This single habit, having written, numbered, time-bound financial goals, is one of the clearest differentiators between people who make financial progress and those who don't. All right. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let's pull it all together. Money is not complicated, or rather, it doesn't have to be. The fundamentals that drive financial success are surprisingly consistent. Understand the difference between income and wealth, and build the latter. Budget intentionally so your money has a purpose before it vanishes. Respect the power of compound interest, and make sure it's working for you, not against you. Build an emergency fund so that life's surprises don't derail everything. Understand the difference between debt that builds and debt that drains. Start investing, even in small amounts, as early as possible so time can do its work. And set clear, specific goals to give your financial decisions a direction. None of this requires a finance degree. None of it requires a high income to begin. What it requires is awareness, and then the small, consistent decisions that come from that awareness. The most important thing you can do after watching this: pick one thing, just one, and act on it this week. Maybe it's writing down your monthly expenses. Maybe it's opening a savings account you've been putting off. Maybe it's finally reading the terms of that loan you've been considering. One thing. Small steps compound too. Because here's the truth. Financial literacy isn't a destination. It's a direction. And if you're watching this, you're already pointing the right way. See you in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe, and drop in the comments. What's the one money habit you're starting this week?